Welcome everyone to our masterclass of build automation strategy that resolve calls and cuts costs. Thank you very much for joining us live, and I'm excited about everybody that will listen to it later. So, hey, welcome to you too, people of the future. Let's jump in. We have two speakers today. Myself, I'm the CEO and co-founder of Replicant. My name is Gadi Shamia. I spent the last decade in the contact center space. Prior to Replicant, I was the chief operating officer of a company called TalkTest that many of you probably know, and started working on AI back in 2017, well before it was cool, and OpenAI and ChatGPT and all the great buzz you hear about today. And with me as one of the pioneers of automation, Brien Mikell from Loves Travel, that will join us in about 25 minutes to a Q&A and discussion about the Loves Travel automation journey, and we'll stay towards the end for the audience questions. So that's our panel today, and of course, the rest of the panel is you. And we're going to have time at the end to ask questions and discuss whatever else will be interesting for the team. I'm really excited about running this masterclass, first because I always really want to be a teacher, and I don't get a lot of opportunities. So I'm happy that once in a while I get to teach something. But the reason I share my background is that I have spent the last 7-8 years now thinking about AI, the last decade, about agents and contact centers and callers and telephony and chat and contacts. And in the last 4, 5, 6 years, we automated hundreds of millions of calls and learned a lot from what we've done. And we're happy to share this experience with everybody else. I occasionally speak with companies, and I hear things like, "That's what we plan to do first. That's the best practices." And I said, I know it's not going to work. How do I tell you it's not going to work? And you should actually think about differently, regardless of whatever vendor you have. So hopefully we can share some of this thought with you and have everybody a bit more educated about this relatively new but super fast moving technology. So what we're going to do today, we're going to start by discussing why resolution rate is the golden metric for automation. And I know it doesn't necessarily come trivial, so that will be my first part. I think maybe one of the most important takeaways from this conversation. Then I want to talk a bit about which call flows you can automate and why, and some data to back it up. So it's not only going to be me waving my hands and telling you things. And I want to focus on learn how the early adopters maximize success with automation and resolution rate. I think part of the reason why Brien is here is exactly for that. Absolutely early adopter. And then at the end, summarize with what are the actions you should take. Brien and I had a little conversation before this webinar, and we talked about the time where the early adopters here got promotions or looked good or got bonuses for adopting automation. I think it's becoming mainstream this year, and the sense of urgency coming from executive in companies, but also from customers, drive people to move faster. So we want to leave you with where do you start and what to do first. So before we jump into things, here's a little activity. We're gonna have a little poll here. And we're gonna ask you this very simple question. Ask everybody to participate is what's your organization current level of automation? And it starts from we don't have any automation to we have a full-blown AI-powered automation that fully resolve calls across the board. So let's spend 30 seconds and have everybody just choose one option. All right, let's give it 5 more seconds and we're gonna close the poll. All right, and the winner is we have so great to see here that most of you are in early stages. So hopefully you're gonna learn a lot from it. a third said no automation, third said basic automation, and third more advanced automation to deflect calls. So that's absolutely a great start, and let's move from here about what else can be done. So we're in a really interesting transition point. And as someone that spent the last decade in the customer service technology space, first was Talkdesk, which was primarily an agent-based software, and now was Replicant, was primarily a caller or customer-based software. I want to share one interesting insight that I'm sure that many will relate to. When we think about the tool set available to customer service centers when it comes to technology, the tool set available today was very agent-centric. We build every piece of software we're using today. If you think of your contact center bill of material, every piece of software used today is designed around this idea that every call that will get to the contact center will be answered by an agent and be resolved by an agent, whatever it's tier 1, tier 2, or tier 3. That's the stack. That's why you have your contact center software like Nice in Contact or Five9 or Avaya or Genesys. That's why you have your workforce management system, because you need to schedule large number of agents in 15 minutes increment. This is why you have workforce engagement software, because it's really hard to do this job and do it consistently well as an agent. So you need to have tools to monitor the agents. You need the carrots, you need the sticks, you need everything else. That's why we build sophisticated queuing systems, because people will always be queued before they speak with an agent. It's pretty rare for a customer to speak with an agent right away. And it's obviously not the desired state, because if everybody speaks with an agent right away, you have a lot of waste in your contact center. That's why we have IVRs. That's why we try to do deflection. It's all designed around the idea that agents are the line of defense when it comes to customer service, and we build software for them. The caller, or I'm using caller interchangeably, it can be a chat or a different channel, but the caller is actually a secondary to it. And the assumption is, and this is how we thought about it at Talkdesk as well, if the agent is satisfied, if the agent gets the tool set, the customer issue is going to be resolved. We think of the world a little differently today. With AI, the tool set is focused around the customer, the one that calls your contact center. And we think of a world in which, at the end, AI is a layer in between the customer and the agent. And the layer is not there to deflect, the layer is there to resolve. And over time, resolve the majority of the calls, leaving the agent to be the tier 2, the emotional support, or whatever else is needed. And if you think of this world, we don't need many of the tools we built for the previous world, because you're not going to have agent calls are going to be identical anymore, because the agents are only going to take complex, unique, different calls. So having the old school workforce engagement tools are not going to help you anymore. You may not need your WFM tool, because you may not have to schedule 5,000 agents anymore. You may have to schedule 1,000 agents or 500 agents. So big change, focus on the customer at the center, and AI is the first line of defense. Now, if you're kind of looking at the big first topic of today, which is automation should always be based on one goal, resolution. What we're trying to do with automation, and this sounds a bit interesting or different, because when you have agents, you often don't think of agents resolution rate. You think of first call resolution in some point of times. You think of tier 1, tier 2 working in concert. But when you think of automation, the reason why we're saying the only metric that matters is what your resolution percentage is, because imagine you had a tier 1 agent that resolve only 5% of the calls. Everything goes to tier 2. Very quickly, your tier 2 is going to be overwhelmed. It will stop being tier 2. It's going to be tier 1. But you're going to waste a lot of time, a lot of money, a lot of customer goodwill on your tier 1. And I'm sure each one of you may have experienced it before. Maybe you onboarded the wrong BPO and they were just not able to resolve the issues. The reason why it's so much more important with automation is that when you speak with the human, at least today, and this human is a BPO, and this human can be clueless. But you're not going to think that this human is a better option than this human. You're going to spend 5, 6, 7 minutes with this human until you get frustrated. You can't speak with your manager. And maybe then you're going to speak with tier 2. So it feels different. And where you're speaking with a machine, people still think that a human agent might be better because they just didn't have enough good experiences with an effective machine. And if you don't have a high resolution rate, a lot of the scores are going to be bounced to an agent. Now, why is it so important? Why I make such a big deal of it? It's all because this balance you're trying to create in your contact center. Because what you're trying to do is you're trying to, with automation, you try to reduce cost, reduce agent attrition, and increase customer satisfaction. And you're going to hear later from Brien that it's actually possible to not balancing between the three, but bring automation and drive a much better outcome for each one of this metrics. So what really happens is that imagine you start, this is the baseline. You have a high cost, you have high agent attrition, and you have a low customer satisfaction. Imagine this is your starting point. Now you introduce this, maybe your, oops, I think my slides are, oops, sorry, I'm, here we go. I'm just hiding stuff for myself here with all the Zoom widgets. I apologize for this. Sorry for the jump. Now you have a bot that have a very low resolution rate. Here's what's going to happen to your cost. The cost is going to increase because right now you're paying an AI to take on calls. So you pay for extra telephony time, you pay for AI time. Your agents are going to get much more frustrated customers because they spend 3 minutes screaming at your bot and trying to get a resolution. We've seen with the old IVRs, and customer satisfaction are going to decrease. So this is absolutely just a pure waste of money. Now you go into a better solution, and we could have jumped to 15 or 25%. Now you have a solution that resolves maybe 50% of the calls, and look what happened to your metrics. The cost goes down, maybe even much more dramatic than it is here, because now AI that is inherently cheaper and more effective, more efficient. We actually noticed that with automation, call time decreased by half. So you have AI take on the call, it's cheaper to run AI calls, and maybe half of them are resolved. The half that don't get resolved bounce to an agent, but even when they do, they bounce with all the context. So the agent does not start from minute 1, the agent starts from minutes 4 or 5 and just finish up things. And then all of a sudden, customer satisfaction increases and agent attrition decreases. Why is that? Again, you're going to hear from Brien later, because agents take more unique calls, more interesting calls, and they're less bombarded by the volume of calls. And the more the resolution rate increases, the better the results are. But to me, the most important thing is that when you look at the total cost of automation, the actual price of solution A versus solution B sometimes seems big, but with 5% difference in automation rate or resolution rate, you might be able to pay someone 10-15% more and still get a much higher ROI and much higher net cost saving. So that's a really important thing to remember. Now, why do I make a big deal about automation and resolution rate? Because for most people, when you come to buy automation, you don't exactly know what you're looking for. It's not when you replace your contact center software from vendor Y to vendor X. You've already been in the space, you know the feature set. When it comes to automation, it's sometimes hard to know. So people fixate on a flashy demo, people fixate on quality of voice, all important thing. But really the one thing you want to ask is, what's your resolution rate per this call flows that I'm going to take? So we talk about this. Let's move to the next step. Gen AI. So we all heard about Gen AI, OpenAI, ChatGPT, large language models, LLM. Gen AI stands for generative AI. I'm not going to go and do a masterclass on Gen AI because we don't have time for it. But Gen AI actually took what we had. Companies like Replicant have been doing what we do for 5-6 years now, well before Gen AI was available, was the regular AI. But Gen AI really added an interesting capability that we never had before. And the most important one is that now we can generate answers that are not predefined. One of the limitations of AI technology up until a year and a half ago was that it imagined that every call was a map, and you can only be on paved roads. It doesn't mean that you really drive on a map, because you can jump from one place to the other, but you are on this paved road, and no new path can be created. So unless we pre-programmed a bunch of questions that people might ask, what people call FAQs, the frequently asked questions, if you ask a question we're never trained to answer, we just wouldn't answer it because we wouldn't know the answer. So we're able to answer questions, but we found ourselves the technology did not allow us to really create freedom of expression and every question you might ask, the same freedom that human brains have. And now with Gen AI, if we have access to a knowledge base, people can ask whatever they want. If it's in the knowledge base, Gen AI can answer. The other benefit is that you can now start automating the long tail of call flows. With a more structured technology, as it used to be before, we're limiting ourselves to really high volume calls because that's where your savings were. The investment in building this call will be returned very quickly. Now, Gen AI offers so much more flexibility, and the example of questions answers is a great one, that it's pretty easy to now automate calls that maybe you have only 300 of those a day, or 400 of those a day, or 200 of those a day, and also allow to automate the edge cases of how people talk to a machine. If somebody says, instead of I have 2 adults and 2 kids for this hotel reservation, if they said instead of that, it's my wife, myself, plus our 2 toddlers, Gen AI can just understand what it is. It may not be common. 99% of people would not talk this way, but now all of a sudden we can capture this extra 1%, which in turn get you higher success rates. So fewer calls will end up getting to a human. Now, we want to talk a bit about which calls you want to automate. Remember, this was part of our agenda. And this is pretty interesting map I want to explain. First of all, where is this data coming from? One thing we like to do with customers is we take a few hundred call recordings from them, run them through our brain, and then before they even become customers, we run through our brain and said, hey, here's why people call you. And here's a percentage that your agents spend in total amount of time on the various call flows. So at least we know how to create a roadmap of what to automate first. So this is very individualized, and this is just a normalized example from one of these call flows. So when we come with this call flow, we say, hey, look kind of what happened here. You have agents spend 23% of the time authenticating customers. It sounds crazy, but it's pretty consistent that authentication alone is over 20% of time spent by agents. Then people call you a lot about scheduled pickup and payments, and actually people do rate shopping and compare rates, and they also do new service setup and whatever call flows they have. So that's what we usually come and literally show in percentage why people are calling and how agents spend their time with the callers. So now the second question we ask, and imagine this is your company. The second question we ask is, which calls should we automate? And you look at this two axes here. You have on the left the percentage of time that agents spend on the phone. So you go higher for low of time and lower for lower time. The reason why authentication is at the top is because agents spend time on authentication for every single call for the specific company. So if it takes 20% of the time, it's only because this happened every single call. People authenticate, then schedule a pickup, authenticate, then want to pay, but they always get through authentication flow. That's why it sits there as the highest time spent by agents. And then many people call about scheduling a pickup, and maybe people call about confirmed service. But for example, confirmed service is a short call. Scheduled pickup can be longer. So that's how you understand this flow. So more time spent means you go up here. And then on the right, left to right, you see the resolution rate with automation. And this is how we use our algorithm in this case, but there's also a lot of common sense here to predict what will be the resolution rate when we automate things. So for example, we know authentication is something automation can do, or AI can do pretty easily. Scheduling, bread and butter for automation. Payment is bread and butter for automation. We expect really high success rates. We know that new service setup or rate shopping going to be less attractive for automation. And the reason is when you have somebody that's already rate shopping, they might not be your customer. You may want a good sales-oriented agent dealing with that. New service setup is an opportunity to connect with your brand, and maybe there's a lot of personal questions over here. But maybe something like reinstate service can fully be automated. The volume is just not not high enough, so it doesn't worth doing that. So that's how we look at things. We look for the magic area, or the place we always start with is what happens, what agents spend a lot of time on and going to get high resolution rate, because that's where you're going to get the saving. That's how you can go back to your boss and say, look at that. We already 7 months in the project, we already paid it back, and now we're saving $100,000 every month, $200,000 every month on this project. Now, the interesting what drives this resolution rate? I want to kind of go quickly through each one of those. There's 4 real elements that kind of drive the success at the end and the resolution rate at the end. One of them is a conversation design. And when I start with this, people look at me and said, why you don't talk about your technology? And my metaphor is always this. Imagine if you're old enough to at least be an internet user 20 years ago. Remember how e-commerce websites used to be. You go to 20 e-commerce websites, 19 of them are terrible, and it's really difficult to give them money. And I remember this thought to myself, like, why you make it so hard for me to give you money? And then one will be excellent. Maybe it was Amazon back in 2004 that was excellent. Now you go to every e-commerce website, they either use Amazon checkout or Shopify checkout. It's a sole problem. All of them are great, and maybe 1 out of 20 is terrible, because the world knows how to build good e-commerce websites. The world just started building automated conversations, and most companies you're going to talk with don't have a lot of experience in it, and they wouldn't know what's good sounds like. And it's different because an agent might ask me, hello, Mr. Shamia, what's your email address? I want to authenticate you. And I would say it's, GADI, SHAMIA, blah, blah, at the service. And the person will ask me to spell it 3 times. I will do it because, what will I do? Not do it? If we try to ask you for your email address the first time and the bot is not sure if it's D or B, and ask again, the customer might lose patience and ask to speak with an agent. So really, the first thing you want to do is design a conversation is good for machine human as it stands today versus copy your agent conversation. The second is you want low latency. Latency kills customer satisfaction. People don't like to wait on the phone. If it takes 2-3 seconds between turns on the phone, you're going to scream. People are going to scream for an agent. Then the third, and maybe as important as the first 2, is turn-by-turn accuracy. Every phone conversation is a conversion funnel. You start in and you have 100% of the people hearing, thank you for calling Acme. This is a thinking machine on a recorded line. And from there, you want to keep as many of this 100% in the call flow before you bounce them to an agent. And every turn there, and the accuracy of every turn is really, really important, because if you have one turn that has low accuracy, that's where your funnel is going to be leaking and people are going to ask for agents. So very important to have really accurate turn by turn. And last but not least, reliability. We have customers that rely on us to run few thousand, the equivalent of 100 of agents. If we are not there, they don't have a plan B. So systems like this need to be reliable. One example of what we do is every service we have has redundancy. No one telephony provider, no one transcription. So you never stand there and say, oh, what happened to my calls? So, we talked a little bit about the which calls are better, etc. I want to go back to it for a second and talk about how to consider it. So we talk about automation powerful, but actually not great for all calls. One additional kind of metrics for the way to think about it is thinking about open-ended call versus transactional. The more transactional your calls are, the easiest it is to automate them. And the lower emotions they are, it's easy to automate them. One exception, for example, is emergency roadside service. And this is where we're looking here. It's transactional. Roadside service is transactional. Where are you? What's wrong with your vehicle? Where do you want to get towed to? There's 20 questions. You go through them. It's pretty transactional call, but it could be very high emotion when you're stuck on a highway, and low emotion when you just maybe stuck in a side road when there's not too much traffic. So what we do here is use automation, because then we can answer everybody in real time. But if somebody's on the highway, which is what we do with a lot of our AAA customers, you immediately bounce this call to an agent, because you don't want somebody that doesn't feel safe to spend too much time with a bot. But now you can speak with an agent 20 seconds after you called, because we know you're in a dangerous situation, versus the normal first in, first out, just wait with everybody else. So calls with optimal for automation tend to be transactional, and again, you want to be more they can be high emotion or low emotion, but if you have a high emotion call, be ready to transfer to an agent without a queue if this is a highly emotional situation, so without wait. And the thing to mention also is that now with Gen AI, you can move into the more open-ended conversation, because Gen AI can be conversational in nature. So if in the first few years we really focused on the right side of this 2x2, now the lines are blurred and we go into the left of the more open-ended conversations. So I think we have one more quick piece before you get into the more interesting part, which is not hearing only me. But I want to talk about the four attributes of a sophisticated AI solution. What should you look for? And the first one is this complete contextual disambiguation. What do I mean? At the end, human beings are really good at understanding intent. If I say something, most of us with some training will understand. If I say something like, my car, I'm trying to turn on my engine, and my car is making a clickety clackety noise, and I'm in the middle of the highway. I feel scared. Very quickly, most normal human being will say, you cannot start your car. You call AAA. You cannot start your car. You're on a highway. You're scared. It's all this information can be gleaned in a very quick sentence, and that's where a good AI system needs to mimic the same thing. You should be able to give it a sentence. It shouldn't be structured. You'd be shocked how much people don't know how to say what they need, especially at the beginning of the conversation. Like, I want to know what to choose between the two options. Like, which two options? But you need the AI system will be able to take this ambiguous sentence and make sense out of it, because without that, you're going to have tell me again, and the customer is going to say agent, and your resolution rate it will be lower accordingly. The other is data collection. This is actually something that many people underestimate. It's not easy to collect data on phone. It's not easy for humans. It's not easy for machines. In English, B and D sound the same, and M and N sound the same. People don't always enunciate. I'd be the first one to admit. My wife always complains that I don't enunciate. So it's really hard to collect data. And with data, it needs to be super accurate. If you're collecting a trip locator, or people call PNR, for flight reservation with our airline customers, we collect a VIN number for our insurance customers, or an email address, which is pretty common. You have to be really good at that. So, and this is, if you think of the conversion funnel I talk about, if I get to a point where I have to collect the information from you and I only do it 80% of the time, here you go. You just lost 20% of your potential success to just one simple flow of collecting a number. Now, why is it so important with machines? Remember what I said before. If I'm trying to give a VIN number for a human, it takes, actually, to give you a real story, I literally called yesterday a plumber, and it took them more than 2 minutes to figure out find my account based on my name, because she constantly did not hear my name correctly. Did I do anything? Did I ask to speak with the manager? No, I stuck with her for 2-3 minutes until she figured it out. With a machine, you're immediately going to get people say agent, agent, agent. So you cannot allow yourself not to be excellent in data collection. The third is conversation repair. Like, what does it mean? We as humans do a great job repairing conversations. Just think of every conversation you have. You say something wrong, you didn't understand the person, maybe you didn't listen because you just look at a text message. Agents, of course, do it all the time. We are really good saying, oh, can you say it again? Or can you rephrase this question? I'm not sure I understood you. Or let's try something else. You gave me your email address, it didn't work. Let's try something else. We're really good at that because we're flexible. Language is one of our core skills. If you don't have an AI system that mimics that, and robotically, you're going to ask people, I don't understand you. Can you say it again? And it sounds the same every time. Again, another leaking point that you have. And last but not least, which become really relevant with Gen AI, is guardrails. Because one thing you don't want is a system that will give you high percentage of wrong answers. Because then, yes, you may have high resolution rates, but you're going to have wrong answers, and people can either use it against you or get the wrong service and get frustrated. So guardrails are the idea of let's make sure the system is not allowed to go beyond the scope. It's flexible, which is the benefit we get from Gen AI, but it's not allowed to make mistakes. We kind of give it a guardrails. And it's pretty similar to what you see with ChatGPT. If you use it, when you try to go to an area that deemed to be out of scope. For ChatGPT, the out of scope can be violence. If you ask ChatGPT how to assemble a bomb, it will immediately say, no, I'm not going to help you with that. In customer service, this could be done easily, but we need to be much more refined, because a legitimate question is, should I buy a Ford or Toyota? Is something that a normal LLM will answer happily. But we want to make sure if we are providing customer service for Ford, we don't encourage you to buy Toyota. So this is where the guardrails are coming in, and they need to be very narrow. So the answers are within your policy, and we don't invent new solutions. So really important things to focus on. So quick activity, again, will be 1 minute or 2 minutes here. Think about the top tier one calls you have, like two, three popular calls, and identify one thing you might want to evaluate to gain confidence that the call can be fully resolved with automation. So it's a bit of, hey, where are you listening? Let's give it a try. You can share in the chat, and we'll give it 60 seconds. Oh, sorry, 120 seconds. And the first person to share something, I'm going to personally find them and send them a nice gift or a small gift, just because it's fun. All right, with the interest of time, I'm gonna move on and introduce Brien. If you have your ideas, please share them in the chat, and let's move on. So I already introduced Brien. Hey, good to see you here.
Thanks for having me.
We are always excited about having you here. Can you spend a minute to tell us about Loves Travel? Like this is a company and nobody knows until they know it, and then they cannot forget that they ever knew it. So
Yeah, sure. So we're travel stops. We're much more than that, but that's the core of our business is travel stop. We own hotels and restaurants and a bunch of other things too, but the core of our business is travel stops. So highway hospitality is the core of our business. We just celebrated 60 years. So we were a company that was founded in 1964. Started with one location, and today we've grown to be over 650 locations all across the United States. I think we're in all states but 2 or 3. And we have 40,000 employees that are across the United States. And then I think the other part that most people don't realize is that we are actually we're the 9th largest privately held company in the United States. So it's pretty big for this truck stop that you just see maybe occasionally driving up and down the highway. And then a little bit, if I go into a little bit about the call center and kind of what what makes up my call center. So we have 350 employees that are within the contact center. The majority of those are in Oklahoma City, and then the other portion of those, I have some people that I use offshore in the Dominican Republic. We do a wide range of calls, obviously, anywhere from what we call customer service, but customer service makes up our My Loves Reward program, as well as it makes up our general customer service calls, our emergency roadside calls. I also have the responsibility of our IT help desk, as well as our mechanical support team, which is kind of a digital request that we have to handle, and as well as I have a resolution department, which is a billing group for B2B customers.
Cool. And you shared with us, you're a speaker in the Resolve, our customer conference back in October last year, and you shared a really great slide. I want you to maybe starting with the end in mind. You're already what 2.5 years into your automation journey. What's 2 years? What's the end result? Maybe kind of walk people through the slide for a minute or two.
Yeah, so when we looked and we first got involved, I mean, we were at a weird place when we first got involved. I mean, with volume and all the different things that were going on. If everyone can kind of think back to where the world looked like 2.5 years ago, was a whole different place than it is today. But we really needed some help. So obviously that's where this relationship started. But we were able to transition our cost. I needed to get the cost down because cost was extremely high. I needed to get the cost down, as well as I needed to get my employee attrition, which was actually through the roof back during that time frame. And then our customer satisfaction, because of the other two were not at a good place, my customer satisfaction was not also at a good place. As you can imagine, when I'm attriting reps and I'm having to bring new agents in, as well as my costs and my hold times and all those other things that come along with that, were extremely high from a dissatisfied customer standpoint.
And share with us what's the result? That's the idea behind the study. Share with us what were the challenges back, I think, pandemic time. What are the results you're seeing today?
Yeah, so today, if I fast forward from where we were, call volume just about doubled in size. Now, a large portion of that is because we grew obviously a great deal in the size of the company. But then if I fast forward to where it is today, the call volume is still there, but actually from an employee attrition standpoint, and I can, if you kind of chart it all out, you can see that when we signed up the agreement with Replicant and it started taking a bunch of those actual calls, and my reps were only handling the calls that were the most important, the employee satisfaction obviously went up greatly, and then which in turn allowed my employee attrition to drop. And actually today I've cut it in half. So I went from about a little over 50% attrition rate. Actually, I was a little higher than that at peaks and times. But today that we're about 24% attrition right now.
How do you attribute what do you attribute the because everybody talks, I think it's more obvious. You mentioned here a great number, 1.7 million in savings. That's because again AI is more efficient than humans in repetitive tasks. Maybe I want to dive deeper quickly into the customer satisfaction. Like what do you attribute to the higher customer satisfaction, and what do you attribute to this lower attrition rate? Like why are agents happier and stay in their jobs longer? And why are customers happier? Because I remember when we talked the first time a couple of years ago, I think whether it's you or someone else said, oh, truck drivers, they never want to talk with a machine. They're bored on the highway, calling from a truck. They just want to chit chat with the agent to pass 15 minutes. And then we've seen both the surprising results. Agents are happier, customers are happier. What do you attribute it to?
Yeah, I would say, we really listen to the agents and what calls do the agents not like to take, or what calls are the difficult calls for the agent. Oddly enough, the calls in some cases that they don't like to take are the calls that are great for the bot to take, right? And so one of the tough things, if we look at, my emergency roadside, one of the hardest things that agents have to do is map the location of where the customer is. So imagine any of us being broke down on the side of the highway. We don't know where we are. We're frustrated of what's all going on. Well, the bot is able to send an actual location services to the customer and actually get the exact location, which takes the rep a lot of time to get that and explain that to the customer. So the bot's actually taking those calls that the agent was not having good satisfaction with, and we've now gave that to the bot. So the agents actually love the bot because it's taken on the calls that the agents didn't really want to deal with to begin with. So I would say that would be the big piece as far as what allowed the lower attrition. From the customer standpoint, there's no wait time. I mean, if they want to get their issue resolved and their problems answered on those calls that we've dedicated to the bot, there is no wait time. So it's instant satisfaction of giving the customer their time back, which obviously is the most valuable thing when you think about a truck driver. And obviously, there was an old saying that if he's not turning, he's burning, right? So if he's spending time on the phone or having to deal with an issue with us, they're burning money and they're burning time. So we want to be able to give our customers a very quick turnaround in whatever problems they have in getting it resolved.
So we talked about call flows that are successful in general for automation. What are the calls that you find the most value in right now? What do automation do really well for you and get high results?
Definitely, as you mentioned earlier, the very transactional type calls, right? So we have a rewards program, and those are very, very transactional type calls. It's a customer wanting to know how many shower credits do they have, how many points do they have on their account. They want to know what the balances of their account. Those are clearly the easiest and the quickest and the fastest resolution and very high resolve rates on those types of calls. It's when we start to get into the other ones, not that we don't have a high resolve rate, but it's not obviously as high as the easy transactional calls.
Mm-hmm. And what do you see the future? What's next?
Next, what I'm really excited about is, today the bot handles, I keep mentioning that emergency road call because that is probably the time that our customers are in the biggest need when they break down on the side of the road and they need help right away. So the bot today already handles a portion of the call and then it hands it off to the agent, which is going really, really well. The next area that we're going to venture into, it's under design right now, is the bot's going to actually handle the call from beginning to end. So if you just think about the level of complexity that is in that call, that you have a customer broke down the side of the road, they may or may not even know what's going on with their truck, that we need to get a mechanic to their location. There's just a lot going on that call, much less the fact of that when they call into dispatch, the dispatcher today has to call and find the closest shop that can go on the actual road call. Well, the bot's going to actually handle all of that for us from end to end. So I'm real excited to see where that's going to go, because that's going to be truly a game changer, not only for us, but I think a game changer for our customers.
Mm-hmm. And we've seen here many people in the audience are really early in their automation journey. What advice would you give people? You champion it. You took major risks before AI was cool. How do you navigate the kind of the internal hurdle, and which advice you give to someone that just want to start this journey now?
Yeah, and I don't want to date myself, but I'm an old school call center guy. I've been doing it for a very long time. So I'd say the biggest thing is to embrace the technology, lean into the technology, and you have to reimagine what is possible, because it's not an IVR. And I think that's for the people that were early in the journey, that's what they kind of think of it as well. It's like designing an IVR. Well, it's not. It's an IVR on steroids of what you're actually doing and what it's capable of doing. But I would say just that leaning into the technology and rethink of it is not an IVR, but more of a true thinking machine that you're going to teach it whatever you want it to be able to do.
And do you think, is there use cases? We talk about which calls to automate. Maybe my last question will be, which calls you don't plan to automate right now, with where the technology is, how you understand technology today? Where do you think this too risky, and you're saying, that's where I might hurt customer satisfaction?
Yeah, I mean, I would say the easiest call is going to be a complaint or a compliment. Those are the two that probably ring right off the top of my head. I mean, if a customer is obviously really upset, I think the worst thing that we could actually do is put them on with a bot and explain your problem or whatever happened with the bot, why the bot could do it, and it could gather whatever notes and send it to that district manager or whoever we needed to send the escalation to. But I think clearly that is a call that, I want it handled by an actual human, to actually touch that call and show a different level of empathy for what is going on, because we are a business that's about customer service. So I think that call would be a call that I have no desire to ever be handled by a bot.
Cool. That's excellent. I would like to remind everybody we have a Q&A. You can click on questions or use the chat and ask. Actually, a Q&A piece will be the best. If you have questions, Brian's going to stay here. And in about 5 minutes, we're going to come back again and answer whatever questions you have. So I want to wrap things up and really talk about what are the next steps that we should be all thinking about in the automation journey. I think the first step is understand the opportunity to resolve calls with AI. So the first thing is really understanding that you can actually do it. I think that's the hurdle. We hear, just share with you a conversation I had with a prospective customer in a use case we've done 10 times, and we have documented success with, said, oh, we think this is too advanced for our customers. And we hear it a lot. So I think the first part is like believing that it's possible. This is maybe a first step, listening to this webinar. The second is talk to people that automated already and they can share their experience. Because without that, you're going to spend a lot of time doing things that may not be as helpful, like an agent assist or call monitoring or some other AI solutions that sprouts now that try to leverage the fact that you can hack a solution pretty easily in this space. The second is set achievable goals. I see a lot of people going into boiling the ocean strategy with AI. You see a CIO that will say, okay, I want to automate all the code flows. I literally heard it from a Fortune 50 company CIO. I have a goal of automating 95% of the calls in the next 2 years. I forgot what was the date. It's actually not a realistic goal. And you're going to hire McKinsey. They're going to spend a year and a half to tell you that which calls you can automate, and then you're going to start working on that. And by the time the 2 years pass, you're going to have 5% of your calls automated. So set an achievable goal and actually think narrow. It's a great way to start narrow and kind of land a couple of use cases that are going to be really great for automation, so you can build trust in your own organization that this is working. We know it works. Maybe other vendors know it works. Your organization would not know that until they will see it successful in production. And the last is choose the right partner. It was everything else in life. You can choose a great technology that will understand conversation design. I've seen cases that people choose a good tech provider, but have a professional services company will not standing behind the solution, and they end up spending millions and not fully going live. So choose the right partner to have documented success in the type of use cases that you are going after. So that's kind of what next. I'll talk a bit about Replicant. We haven't talked a lot about it, but by now you know why we have experience in this. We've been powering phone and chat conversations from 2018. Okay, well before AI was cool. There was a variety of customers. Loves is one of them, but we have customers like AAA and Horn America Cruise Lines and Xenial, the General Insurance, and many others. ADT is a customer. So across the board, across use cases, and we see what you heard from Brien. We see pretty consistently. We're able to reduce costs. We're able to reduce agent attrition, and we're able to increase customer satisfaction pretty much across the board. So that's maybe last the objective part. Customers on the right. I'm sure you all recognize some of the logos. Our NPS is 65. If everybody's here in customer service, and to get to 65% and 65, sorry, not percent NPS, it's pretty hard. And again, there's a lot of information available in G2 and some of the other review sites if you want to kind of hear directly from customers and not necessarily only listen to me. I'm only that interesting. We want to leave you with one more thing, which is a quick, and again, you can use this time to ask questions, but just a couple of minutes I'm probably not going to let you play the whole thing, but how a great AI conversation sound like. And that should be your North Star of what you actually want to have in your customer service center, 12 months from now.
Thank you for calling Countryside Insurance. I'm a thinking machine on a recorded line. I was able to locate a policy linked to this phone number. Am I speaking with Benjamin?
That's me.
Perfect. I have your policy right in front of me. How can I help you today?
I've got a problem.
So I can resolve your issue. Can you tell me more about the problem?
Yeah, I got in a fender bender on Highway 24 near the Trinity Lane exit. I drive a gray Honda, and this other Tesla just clipped me. It was a total hit and run.
I understand you were involved in an accident. Are you currently in a safe place?
I was able to pull into a Love's travel stop.
Okay, let's help create a claim right now. Are there any injuries?
We're all fine, thank you.
It's good to hear that there were no injuries and that you are in a safe place. To complete your claim in less than 4 minutes, I'll need to collect a bit more information. I heard you were driving a gray Honda. Is that the one you have on file?
You got it.
If you have it, what's the license plate of the other vehicle?
Let me find it.
Sure, I'll hold.
So my dash cam caught it, and it's a California plate. It's X is in X-ray, Y is in Yellowstone, 8756.
I got a California plate XY 8756. Is that correct?
Actually, it's X as in X-ray, Z as in zebra.
That's XZ 8756, right?
That's the one.
Thanks. Just a few more questions. Were there any passengers in the vehicle?
My partner was in the passenger seat, and we got a toddler in the back.
Are you able to send me a photo of the damage to the vehicle to assist with your claim?
I'm happy to.
I'll text you a link. Please open it and attach photos of the front, back, and sides of the vehicle. I'll be here if you have questions.
All right, so I've got the link, and I'm going to open it up, and I'll take a photo of the front of the vehicle, and the side of the vehicle, and the back of the vehicle, and the other side, and send that in.
Thanks for submitting the photos. Would you like to schedule a repair at an authorized car service center?
I better do that. My ride is looking pretty bad.
There are two options based on your current location in Nashville, Tennessee: Fred's Auto Repair and Music City Motors. Which would you prefer?
Who can see me the earliest?
Music City Motors has availability tomorrow morning at 9 to drop off your vehicle. Would you like to book it?
Does my policy cover a rental car while my vehicle's in the shop?
Yes. As a Platinum member, you are entitled to a complimentary rental car while the repairs are being made. You will have to book the rental using the credit card we have on file. Would you like to verify that card now?
Let's do it.
Just so you know, we won't be recording this next part of the call while I take your payment details. I see a credit card on file ending in 9884. Can you please confirm the 3-digit security code on the back of the card?
Yes, 376.
Thanks. Your card has been verified. Would you like to complete the booking tomorrow at 9 for Music City Motors?
Please and thank you.
Your booking is confirmed. A confirmation message has also been sent via text and email. Have you contacted the police to file an incident report?
No, I haven't, and it's not something that I've done before. I'm actually feeling a bit shaken up. I wonder if you'd be able to transfer me to someone who can help.
Sure. Please hold while I transfer you to a representative. They will have a full record of this call.
All right, so that's the future.
All right, that was actually live on stage. This call happened. This is not like pre-recorded. It was. Oops, sorry. I definitely have to.
4-minute call, but I don't think it felt like that. I mean, it felt fast.
Sorry, guys.
It felt accurate.
I have to find my
AI handoff, but
my slide and stop it.
You're getting the savings of that average handle time when the agent picks it up.
Here we go. We're able to stop it successfully. Sorry for that. I want to save you this period, the last couple minutes. So we have a couple of questions that I want to make sure we answer. There's a couple of people that asked. There's one here for Brien, if you can read in the chat, but I'll answer first meanwhile. There's a couple of people asked about technical, like how the thing works. So I'll try to do the technical describe for dummy, and the next time we probably need to include a slide on that. A call comes in, it usually will come into your contact center or IVR, or will come to the automation system. And this I use Replicant as an example. Either all calls can come to us, or calls can come to your IVR. And if we decide to start with one call flow, think it's emergency roadside services as an example, everybody will press 2, will be SIP transferred from your IVR to the automation system, in this case to Replicant, and we're going to take the call. So people hear the IVR for roadside system, press 2, they press 2, they got to us. Now there's another set of integrations. I'm using the roadside system example just because it's something you can all imagine pretty easily. The first thing we need to do is ask you who you are, authenticate you. This data will be probably in Salesforce. So we're going to use, we're going to do a data dip. We check your phone number, see if we have it in the data. If we do, we're going to ask you a trick question, like what's your postal code? What's your name? Something to verify you are. So we identify you with your phone number maybe, and we will authenticate you with an information that resides in Salesforce or Zendesk or any of the internal CRM system you have. And then we're going to continue talking with you, and we ask what's wrong with your vehicle, and there's no integration needed here, and kind of collect more information. And maybe you give us an address. This is where they might be, we're just going to listen to the address. Or as Brien said, we send you an SMS with a link. This link is connected to a web form, and the web form will automatically use your phone location services, figure out where you are, you can submit the answer, a little bit like you do when you order an Uber. In this case, we integrate to geo APIs, so we can easily find your location. And then we're going to continue on, we collect all the information, and at the end, we have to dispatch a tow truck to you. So we're going to go to the dispatch system. It's now a separate system in this case, and say, hey, we have this vehicle, because the vehicle might require a flatbed truck or whatever, stuck at this latitude, longitude, with this problem. What do you have for me? And the dispatch system will say, oh, I have a tow truck 20 minutes away with this case number, and we're going to revert this case number to the customer, confirm it to the dispatch system through an API, and then go and write a case in Salesforce or in whatever system. If for some reason we identify this person's in danger, for example, and we need to transfer it to an agent, we're going to use SIP refer again to transfer the call back into the call center system. So that's the quickest way I can explain how the system works. But for Leopold, or for, I think I saw another question, Ronald, of course, we can dive into the depth of it, and happy to do it one-on-one. Just reach out to us. Now, Brien, your question.
I did not see it, but
okay. So somebody asked, what are the challenges you'd seen with training the bot, getting from 0 to 1?
Challenges we've seen. I think it's so in working with our customer success manager from you guys' end, I think it's looking at where there's fallout in the beginning, which we knew we're gonna have to crawl before we could run. And so it's really paying attention to that data and analyzing to see where is the customer falling out. And I can give an example of a fallout was customers calling in and saying, hey, my wheel has damage. Well, we taught the bot rim, we didn't teach it wheel. So we knew very quickly we were seeing that difference that we had to train. So it was making very quick adjustments to, oh, I got to train that wheel and rim mean the exact same thing. So that was where, I mean, as far as how we were able to train up very quickly on those different situations they didn't know about. So relatively simple. And in our case, I hired, because we have to pay a lot of attention to the data, but I hired an analyst that really his responsibility is all day long is to be monitoring kind of what the bot is doing and learning, or what does it need to learn to understand better.
Great. Thank you for your answer. We're at time. So thank you everybody for joining us. And as always, Brien, thank you for your insights.
Thank you.
And until next time, happy automation.